Hello everyone. In this video I want to talk a little bit about earnest money deposit. A lot of people have a lot of misconceptions around what earnest money is in real estate, and so I want to talk a little bit about what it actually is. So earnest money is an important part of a real estate transaction. It's essentially a good faith deposit, and what it is it's basically a deposit the buyer puts down on a home to the seller, showing a commitment to purchase the property. The earnest money deposit is not made until after the seller accepts the offer. That means it's in writing, and typically it's within 3 days of the offer being accepted. While it is optional, most sellers are not going to consider an offer a serious offer unless there is an earnest money deposit attached to it. How much should you offer? A lot of that depends on the competitiveness of the market. What type of market are you in? The seller may dictate preferences, maybe in the MLS listing description. There are usually some customary practices in the area as well, so it may be different in Miami than it is up here in Polk County, for example. Different in New York compared to Florida. And then the other thing is that it may be used to make an offer more attractive. So typically earnest money deposits range from 1 to 10% of the home's purchase price. Usually they're going to be higher if the offer is a cash offer compared to a financed offer, because at the end of the day, if you're making a cash offer, that means you have all the cash for the purchase of the home. Whereas a financed offer, clearly the buyer doesn't have all the cash to purchase the home, and so you're usually going to have a smaller deposit on financed offers. So one of the things to be thinking about is using that earnest money deposit in your negotiations. So maybe you can't go as high in terms of your offer price because of loan limits or things like that, but you might have enough cash on hand where you can, instead of put 1% of your 1% of earnest money down, you might be able to put 2%. That is significant because essentially that is indicating to the seller how serious you are about purchasing the home. One of the ways I like to explain to buyers what earnest money deposit is essentially the seller is taking the home off the market while due diligence is happening, while we're waiting to get to a clear to close for the buyer, and that's typically 30 days or so, could be even longer. And so that's lost time for the seller. Now, one of the questions or concerns most buyers have is, well, what happens if the deal doesn't go through? So if the deal doesn't go through, then in many instances as a buyer, you would get your earnest money deposit back, as long as the reason the deal doesn't go through is because of one of the contingencies you had in your offer. For example, you have an inspection contingency, typically 10 days in our area. If for some reason during that 10-day period you don't like something about the home, honestly the inspection period is your get out of jail free card. You can get out of the contract and you would get your earnest money deposit back, no questions asked. If your financing doesn't come through for some reason, maybe your job status changes from when you went under contract to when you close, and now you are no longer eligible for financing, you would get that earnest money deposit back, as long as it happened within your financing contingency. If the home doesn't appraise and you had an appraisal contingency, you'd get your earnest money deposit back. Or if your home doesn't sell and you had a home sale contingency in your offer, then you would get your earnest money deposit back. When you don't get your earnest money deposit back is if you don't close and it's not one of the reasons that were contingent in your offer. So for example, we're a few days from closing and you get cold feet and you just change your mind. Well, in most instances, the seller's going to get to keep that earnest money deposit back. So that's a little bit about how that works. So your earnest money deposit is very much protected, and it doesn't go directly to the seller once you put it in. It actually is usually held by a third party, usually the title company that's going to close the transaction, holds that earnest money deposit. Now, at closing, that earnest money deposit goes towards your down payment. Or if you don't have a down payment, because you say it's a USDA or a VA loan, it can go towards your closing costs. So you've already paid something towards the house, so it comes off what you owe at closing. Something to be aware of is earnest money scams. There are individuals that will try to intercept emails. They look for keywords, and then they'll reroute the wiring instructions so that you send the money to the wrong location. So be really careful about that. Make sure that you're calling the title company with the number on the website, not the one in the email, to verify the wiring instructions before you wire any money. So that's a little bit about how earnest money deposit works, and when it's at risk and when it's not. I hope that you found this information helpful. And as always, if you or someone you know is looking to buy or sell a home in Central Florida, I hope you'll give me a chance to help them. Remember, you can't miss with Chris. Have a great day, everybody.